Please know the views and opinions.
Just a guy doing his best.
Okay, you can introduce us.
Are we on?
Yep.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the God Talk Guys. My name is Michael Mack. This is Michael Koran on my right.
Good.
And each week at this time on Cambridge Community Access Television, we get together. We talk about God and faith, and we draw in our program called the God Talk Guys. We draw on as many faith traditions as we can, but usually, because we're just limited human beings, we draw
Speak
on
for yourself.
our own.
Speak for yourself.
And our own.
Michael.
Okay, fine. Take it away. There's something clearly that you want to say. There is something on your mind, Michael.
No.
Tell me.
What I wanted.
Tell me.
Michael wants the topic. He's one of these people that likes topics when we have.
Well, I like to have a direction
Yeah.
to go in. I like to go somewhere.
Rather than just go where the spirit moves you.
I'll go with the flow.
I can see a little criticism there. So the question I wanted to ask.
This question right here.
Can I say the one I wanted to ask or not?
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask how to deal with God's dark side.
How to deal with God's dark side. And I had a problem with that because it presupposes that God has a dark side. And it seemed to me that it would be easier for me to find a way in to simply ask, does God have a dark side?
Okay.
It would be otherwise, because that first question I simply can't find a way into.
Right, flooding the world and killing everybody except one family.
Oh, really? Is that what God did?
Yes, according to the Hebrew Bible.
According to the Hebrew Bible, yes.
Yes.
But does the Hebrew Bible represent God?
Well, who does?
That's a great question.
I mean, if we look at the world today, right? Let's get real.
Get real. Be real.
Okay,
We are real here on the God
There's a
Talk.
lot of difficulties about
Yes.
what people who claim God, they're doing God's will. You would agree to that?
Yes, I agree to
And you
that.
probably wouldn't be in favor of most of the things, many of the things.
Many of the things that are done in the name of God,
Yep.
especially, actually really only the things that cause harm, no, can't get behind that.
Right.
And I'm inclined to think that those are not God's will. That if people are doing evil or doing harm in the name of God, well, that's not God as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
And I imagine that we're in agreement on that. Is that right?
I don't know, actually. I would like to be in agreement. Tolstoy, at the end of his life, wrote that the heart of Christianity, which he thinks is needed to save the world, is resist not evil, turn the other cheek, love your neighbor as yourself, don't go to the military in whatever.
Tolstoy was a great influence on Gandhi.
Yep. They wrote together. They had many letters.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Many letters. You can read them online.
You might be interested to know that Gandhi also wrote to Hitler. I don't think he got a letter back,
Oh, my.
but he did write a letter to Hitler encouraging some kind of more peaceful answer. But yeah, it sounds like there was a correspondence between Tolstoy and Gandhi.
Yes, and Gandhi wrote to Martin Buber.
Oh, the great Jewish theologian.
Yeah, and
I and thou.
yes, I think advocating more nonviolence than Buber was willing to agree to.
Well, you have to say, that if somebody truly lives the turn the other cheek ideal, and you might, and possibly it's true that as an organization, the Quakers come, the Friends of God, the Quakers come as close as anyone to living the ideal of turning the other cheek and to resisting not evil. If you truly live that, it's a heroic life to live.
Yes.
Because it takes a lot of guts to do. In fact, what many protesters during the civil rights movement were doing, to go into the diner in places in Alabama or elsewhere in the South.
Where you grew up, maybe, no?
I didn't grow up that far south.
Oh.
North Carolina is as far south as I was. But to go in there and to simply sit at the counter and take the abuse, to take the spitting, to take the hitting.
This happened in North Carolina, actually. It was
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. It was just not as widely publicized.
So that's beautiful, I think.
So I want to return to the question,
Yes,
does
I
God have a dark side?
Well, that's interesting. I'm a member of Quaker meeting here in in Cambridge.
Yeah.
I attend the artists and writers from time to time. And one wonderful, a friend of mine actually, was at this Rajneesh workshop, I believe.
Oh, Rajneesh, Osho,
Yes.
the Golden Guru.
And people,
Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, the guy with the Rolls Royces.
Yes.
That's probably how he's more
and people
popularly
were,
known.
one of the exercises was to go around and tell everyone you hate them. And my Quaker friend had to leave.
Yeah.
Many of us were liberated by that. We could say it, and then we could discover our love for each other.
Well, that's what Rajneesh was proposing, is that hate and love come from, I don't have his language for it, but it was something like they come from the same source. It's energy.
Yes.
It's all really all about energy.
So one of the challenges for that Quaker, and I think for many, myself included, was to not acknowledge our own dark side.
Well, recently when we were talking on air about the Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner, you could not bring yourself to say those words, that those words were very difficult for you to say, to acknowledge, to call yourself a sinner.
It's not my language, but I could, I certainly certainly in Hebrew the word sin means missing the mark. I've done worse than that, certainly. I mean, people become abusive. I've misused myself. I was an equal abuser. I didn't.
An equal opportunity abuser?
I treated myself the way I treated everyone else. I somehow wanted to be healed and used all experiences, including me, and it might even have been worse, to understand healing, not even to be healed. I might have been just obsessive in my mind.
So can we bring that back to the question that's really driving this particular episode?
Yep.
Does God have a dark side?
Well, at least in my...
So let's focus on your life rather than focusing on the Jewish Bible.
Yes,
Does God
I am.
have a dark side?
Certainly for me, who I thought was God, which was at the beginning a voice that was guiding me.
When you were a much younger man?
Yes, in my 20s actually, and moved me to become a Catholic, and moved me to go to Israel in some ways. That voice I now consider usually dangerous, not to listen to. Occasionally I check in.
Well, here's the question though. Was that voice God? You thought it was then, but now you don't think so.
No. I think everything is God. Spinoza believes it.
Okay, now you've just opened yourself up, so let me drive right in.
Yeah.
Let me drive right into the garage.
He's happy. Somehow I say he's really happy. I've set myself up. Everything is God, Spinoza. Nature naturing itself, he says.
So, are you saying that everything that happens out there, everything that happens in here, that is God?
Yes, and Sufis say this too. Sufis say
I mean, I'm not going to...
I think this
I don't know.
Probably even Catholics, some theologian might say.
You know, it may be so.
You were just telling me.
No, I think in Catholicism, there are very clear lines that are drawn theologically between what is God and what is not.
Although you were, Michael was quoting me before the show, that in the beginning was the Logos, or the Word.
Okay, so I was quoting from the Gospel of John.
Right, and without the Logos, or without, Logos is a better word than word, without the Logos, nothing was made.
Well, if I may, why don't I just deliver it right now? It's a few lines.
Sure.
And so this is what we were considering, these beginning lines from the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came to be through the Word, and without it, nothing came to be.
Yep.
So that somehow, So are you using that language to support your idea?
Yes, that everything is
Everything is God.
Even from the Gospel of John, everything is God. It takes a dark turn after that, talking about where people who don't see the light are in big trouble. So you read after that, you have that the religious leaders did not understand Jeshua when Jeshua was saying this. How could
So you're referring to a passage
in the
later
gospel,
in
yes,
the Gospel
that you were
of
reading
John.
before the show, yes.
Yeah.
And so the dark.
We're putting our audience at a disadvantage if we don't share this with them.
Go for them. Go for it. Go for it.
Well, I was going to do this in our second episode, which will follow this one.
You can do both times if you want.
I don't want to. I want to save it for later.
Okay. Keep you interested.
Yes. Keep you on tenterhooks.
Yes.
What will happen next?
So, but at least the beginning of the Gospel of John is close to Spinoza, where Spinoza says God is nature naturing itself.
I'm not going to argue with Spinoza.
So in that sense, if everything
is God,
especially, matter is and spirit, what all of it is, we're just part of, scientists might say that we're part of a web. The web of life,
Sure.
the web
Sure.
of more than life, the web we need stars.
there is. Can we call it the all?
Yes, I love it. Or all, or maybe not the all is a little tricky, but alls for sure.
Okay.
The all makes it into a, maybe, whatever, the great Oz. But we're all part of all. How's that?
I think that we can agree on that.
And
I think that we can agree completely, wholly, fully, and truly
yes, great.
that we are all part of the all.
I wouldn't say the all, we're all part of all. But anyway, we're almost in agreement.
We're almost there.
Almost there. I made the mistake of thinking that in my private self, which I needed to protect myself, you would understand this.
I would understand this.
Deeply.
Don't presume. Don't presume.
Okay, I think you'd understand this. I needed to protect my private self from a very hostile family.
World, a hostile universe.
Well, a hostile family to start with.
Yeah.
And a hostile me, for that matter, once. And so I retreated to my, as they say in the Hebrew Bible, my still small voice. And that was helpful. And the Quakers sit in silence and wait till we're moved by the Spirit to speak. And that was extremely helpful to me. And I discovered whatever was speaking in me was different than who I thought I was. And in some ways more loving, in some ways more arrogant, more confident. But it was another part of me, at least. And I thought that was God. And I remember, these are two stories I'd love you to listen to if you wouldn't.
Sure. I just want to touch base on the question that's driving this show, which is, does God have a dark side?
Yep.
And so I would love to just weave that question into the stories that you're about to tell.
I might stop after one and maybe let you do that, if you could.
All right.
So the first one is, some friends of mine are visiting Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, one.
You're living in Chicago.
Yes,
Some
university.
friends of yours are.
One is visiting, Chuck Furnoff.
And you're in your 20s.
Yes. And we have a mutual friend, Lonnie,
Mm-hmm.
and we go to a little cafe, and we're sitting down, and I feel so much love, and the Spirit is with me, and I feel God is with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes me many, many years later to realize it's Chuck and Lonnie, and me being with them, both of them who are friends and who love me. Probably more than I love them. I needed so much. So I was misplacing, or something like abuse, taking that, the spirit of our sitting and eating together, and our bodies, hugging each other hello and goodbye and looking at each other. And it was too dangerous for me to say, oh, this is what is divine.
Is it possible that at some future time you will look back at that very same incident and understand it even differently than you do now?
I'm sure. But I now do understand it as the word God for me then was a taking from interaction.
Here's my takeaway, that your understanding of the nature of God and your understanding of the nature of yourself have changed over time, that you have grown into a new understanding of what they are.
Yep.
And a richer
Yes.
and deeper understanding and a more inclusive understanding, that it's much more than simply some voice that you're following.
It includes you now.
It includes me, it includes you.
In Colombia,
Yes.
and Barbara.
Yeah,
So that's new to me. There's a flow between us now.
Yeah.
This whole show is because Michael said, you know, Koran, don't bring your poetry.
don't bring your poems.
Well, let's argue.
And so we started the argument by arguing about whether you would bring your poems or not.
It was music to my ears. University of Chicago said, let's argue about the divinity or whatever. So here's the second story, which is similar. I'm sitting in my rooming house home on Irving Street
In Cambridge.
in Cambridge. Rent control is in effect.
So that must have been decades ago.
Yes.
How long ago was it?
This was in the 80s
Okay.
and early 80s.
So you're paying $250 a month.
$135.
$135.
I shared a bathroom, which I didn't seem to mind at all.
Yeah.
I had 2 rooms. And my dear friend Dorothy lived upstairs. And I'm sitting alone in these rooms and again feeling, oh, such peace. Feels like God is coming through the walls and I'm surrounded with God and I love it. And it takes me a little while, not too long, to realize I'm feeling this peace, having a nice home. And I'm having a nice home because my friend Dorothy told me about this place. And the landlady, who was very sweet, it's her home.
I would like to propose a third alternative. And the third alternative is that you were feeling those things not because of some connection to God and not because of your connection to your friends and your landlady, but just because.
Well, that's hard to argue with. You wanted argument. It's been difficult. I think it would have been way more vulnerable for me. You see, if I'm thanking God for it, then in some ways I'm in control. In some ways, even in my humility, I'm in control because I can somehow control that relationship, or think I is part. If I have to really, 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 which I'm not sure I've done, take that gratitude and give it to my friend Dorothy Ream and Janet, who died, who lived also in that apartment building, and the landlady, whose name I forget, very sweet. Her son took over the...
Why be so exclusive? Why limit that gratitude to those few individuals? Because those few individuals were a part of this all that we're talking about. Why not be grateful to the all that brought all of this?
Much easier. This is much harder. To really, really, really be with Dorothy, as you and I are here together, or Columbia and is with us, and Barbara. That would be hard for me.
Hard for you to
really feel, I can feel it now, toward you for starters. It's easier with Columbia and Barbara, they're far away. For you for starters, to feel whatever I feel about what I used to call God, and to feel that divinity in you and in me, and to praise it, cherish it, listen to it, be guided by it, just like you guided us to have arguments. That would be mind-boggling. It's so easy to say, give my great gratitude toward the all, but to take that same gratitude and give it to you and to me.
That's very beautiful. Very beautiful. Is that something you want to do?
I want to do
You're
that.
saying it's more challenging. Do you want to do it?
I want to do it, but it's for myself.
Well, you
too.
heard it here first.
For myself too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I think, at least my understanding of God, sucked up praise and gratitude from where it really belonged, to my landlady.
Well, you're suggesting in where it really belonged, now that you have found the truth, you have found the new way, you have found the answer.
No, I wouldn't
When
go that
what I
far.
would
say
suggest
our
is
truth-
that it's been an evolution,
Yes,
and
yeah.
it will continue to
Yes,
evolve.
I agree with that.
And assuming that you
wouldn't call it-
die and continue to live in some other way
Yes.
or some other realm, it will
Yes.
continue to do so even more.
Yes. So then a hard question for me
Yes.
is what the word God means now.
Well, especially if the question that is driving the show is, does God have a dark side? So what is this God that might have a dark side? What is this God that you're talking about?
Well, Who
is this God?
If it's nature naturing itself, that doesn't mean there aren't spirits around
I know.
claiming to be God.
Sure.
Michael Horner goes
Sure.
to South America, takes ayahuasca, meets the spirit. I am the God you're looking for. Michael Horner comes out of his trance, tells his shaman, and the shaman says all the spirits say that. So there might be many spirits. In Bill Mayer's wonderful movie, Religiosity.
Religulous. And
Religulous,
it's
yeah.
semi-wonderful.
Yep. So we could
Is
talk
my
about
review.
We could talk about that. But the people in Italy,
Sort of wonderful
when-
sometimes.
When people, they did a survey, when people in
Not entirely wonderful other times.
when people in Italy pray, the first 5 people they pray to are saints. Jesus is 6.
Point?
What that there are many spirits around that can help people, and they don't have to go to Jesus. Certainly in Italy, they don't.
Yeah. In fact, I have a dear friend who is he's a Brazilian priest who shared with me that sometimes the Portuguese and Brazilians will have maybe just a little bit more reverence and devotion to Mary than to Jesus.
And I can understand.
And I love that.
Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah.
But there.
You know,
Yeah.
whoever embodies the good and calls you, why not? You got my blessing.
Well, we have challenges with the good, though. People hear Mary saying, certainly, I believe Mother Teresa, I know she was against abortion.
Mother Teresa, as I understand it, was pretty doctrinaire as far as being down the line Catholic doctrine.
Now, what I don't get, Michael, I mean, there's these, let's say, at least in this discussion, there's many spirits around, some saying they're God, some saying they're Jesuits, some could be
And not only spirits, but there are human beings who say that they are God.
And why aren't we doing better?
That's
Humanity.
a great question.
I mean, why
We've been
can't-
around long enough, we
why-
should know better.
I mean, if I was God, I would say to all the people praying to me, be nice. Whatever you do, I wasn't kidding when I said love your neighbor as yourself. I wasn't kidding when I said turn the other cheek. Do not kill. What about that do you not understand? And if he's a punishing God, I am going to give you a sign. I'll first put one little boil. I mean, what's going on? I mean,
you're asking the wrong
Do
guy.
we have an impotent God? What happened with the big stuff?
Well,
the
we don't know.
Holocaust?
We don't really know what God is.
No, but it seems whoever is claiming to be God is not doing his job. You remember, not doing his job.
Well, if you go to different faith traditions, you will find different representations of God. And the farther back you go, in fact, the more likely God is going to be punishing and violent and
Yeah, but
if
what's
you-
going on now? Why he doesn't seem to be doing anything? Is he a God emeritus? Well, once when I had the job, seriously speaking, do something, anything. I'm not asking for a sign. Why don't you tell some people not to be hurting others? They're killing in your name. At least if they're killing in your name, why don't you just speak to them? They pray too. They pray in different
Well,
ways.
what we're taught theologically is that God gave us many things, including free will. On that note, how much time do we have left? We've got about almost 3 minutes.
No, we have 2
2
minutes.
minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay, so we should start winding up.
Okay.
and try to answer this question in our remaining 2 minutes.
Maybe God needs
Does
a dark
God
side. He needs
have a dark
He
side?
needs more power. He might be a goody two-shoes. I'll listen to you, I love you, and not do anything. Sounds like me.
I'll create you. In fact, I'll create everything.
Yep.
And then you're on your own.
Yes, but why pray to him then? It makes us feel good.
I have the answer to that question, but the answer it will be longer than
Yeah.
2 minutes. We pray to him because we long for him. And when I say him, I really mean like it. We pray to the beloved because we long for the
Why do
beloved.
we long? He doesn't seem to do much.
What's that?
I also pray.
Maybe the only
I
thing...
pray morning and night. I do too.
Yeah?
I say,
What do you pray for?
I say,
This may be a topic for another show.
No, I can end our show this way. May we co-create blessings night and day
Okay.
in all we do and feel.
And I suspect that you
And think and
practice
say.
that. That you
And it helps
practice that
saying
during the
it.
day.
It helps saying it.
You bet it does.
That could be like a mantra, right? That could be a mantra.
Yes.
And I say it morning and night.
Yeah.
And it helps.
And so it does help.
Especially someone like me.
It makes you better.
With me, my dark side, it helps me be better.
Yeah. That's what
However
that's
I'm
what
feeling,
prayer
I
is
say
about.
that. I could not be feeling very well, but I still say I want to do this. And only this. So but that doesn't need a God. That could be a mantra. That could be a Buddhist mantra.
Do you pray to a God though, don't you?
I don't know, actually. You're more well trained than I. I just say, I don't use the word God usually. I sometimes say earth, sky, mother, father.
Yeah,
And that sometimes I often say earth, sky, mother, father. But I really mean the sky and the earth, and I think they are alive.
You've got 10 seconds to wrap it up, bud.
Thank you for
Does
joining.
God have a dark side? We have no yes or no answer to the question.
He needs it for power. He needs it to do more.
God bless you and all
Whoever
of
he
us.
is.